Captain Elian Dorel stepped from the shuttle onto the iridescent soil of Australis, the planet's twin suns warming his face. 6 weeks into this peacekeeping assignment, and the beauty of this world still caught him off guard. The Australian's capital city of Luminar spread before him, its crystalline spires capturing light in ways that defied Earth physics. "Captain, the High Council is waiting." Lieutenant Kira Blackwood nodded toward the central citadel. Despite her formal tone, Elian caught the wonder in her eyes. Few humans had set foot on this world since first contact 3 years ago. "Let them wait another minute," Elian said, drawing a deep breath of the sweet air. "I want to remember this." The uneasy alliance between Earth and Australis remained fragile. Border skirmishes with the aggressive Tauran Federation threatened both their worlds, forcing cooperation despite vast cultural differences. As head of security for the diplomatic mission, Elian walked a razor's edge daily. The Citadel guards, tall, blue-skinned Australians with distinctive silver markings along their temples, nodded respectfully as they passed. Inside, the council chamber hummed with tension. "The Torrents have violated the neutral zone again," First Minister Tavern announced without preamble. The Australian leader's luminescent eyes fixed on Elian. "Your fleet did nothing." Before Elian could respond, a side door burst open. A young Australian female, perhaps equivalent to a human teenager, rushed in. Her silver markings were more elaborate than others. Royal lineage. Unlike the composed demeanor typical of her people, her movements were quick, almost human in their spontaneity. "Father, you promised I could attend when the humans came." Her voice carried the musical quality all Australians possessed, but with unmistakable petulance. The First Minister sighed. "Princess Varial, this is not the time." Elian watched, fascinated. Australian family dynamics remained largely mysterious to humans. The young princess's defiance was unexpected. "Captain Dorel," Minister Tavern said reluctantly, "may I present my daughter, Princess Varial?" The princess turned, noticing Elian fully for the first time. Her eyes widened. 3 concentric rings of silver, violet, and deep blue expanding in what Elian had learned indicated surprise. "You're taller than the other humans," she said without ceremony. Despite himself, Elian smiled. "And you're more direct than the other Australians." The diplomatic team tensed at his informality, but Varial laughed. A sound like wind chimes that seemed to brighten the chamber. The meeting continued, with plans made to strengthen the border outposts. Throughout, Elian felt Varial's curious gaze. When the council adjourned, she approached him with the grace of her people but none of their reserve. "Will you show me how humans fight?" she asked. "Father says I must train in all combat forms before my ascension." Over the following weeks, this request became routine. While diplomatic tensions mounted, Elian found himself teaching the princess basic combat forms adapted for Australian physiology. She learned with startling speed, her questions penetrating. "Your people fight from fear," she observed one day, easily sidestepping his demonstration strike. "We fight from certainty." "Different approaches, same results," Elian replied, impressed by her insight. "Not the same," Varial countered. "When the stars align, outcomes diverge." The Tauran threat escalated. When intelligence revealed an assassination plot against the royal family, Elian's team moved them to a secure location deep in Astralis's crystal forests. There, during the long nights filled with strategy meetings, Varial sought out Elian's company. On the 17th night, as 3 moons rose over the forest, she found him alone on the observation platform. "My ascension ceremony is next year," she said without greeting. "When I complete it, I'll be considered an adult." Elian nodded, uncertain where this was leading. "Among my people, we recognize soul bonds across many forms," she continued. "I've sensed ours since you arrived." Elian froze. "Princess, I'm not asking for anything now," she said, her voice betraying youth despite her composure. "But I want you to know what I feel." Elian chose his words carefully. "Varial, our worlds are very different. What you're feeling, it might be admiration, or friendship. You have so much growing to do. Her eyes flashed. Don't diminish what I know to be true. Then prove it, he said gently. Find me when the stars align again. If you still feel this way when you've seen more of the universe, I'll listen. The attack came at dawn. Somehow the Taurans had found them. In the chaos, Elian and Varial fought side by side, her untested skills proving remarkably effective. When a Tauran assassin cornered them, Elian took a blade meant for her. As medics worked to save him, Varial leaned close, her voice fierce with something older than her years. I will find you, Captain Dorell. When the stars align, I'll return, and you'll remember this promise. Through pain-blurred vision, Elian watched her being led away, wondering at the strange fate that had bound him to this alien princess, and what would come if she ever did return. 7 years passed like a slow healing wound for Elian Dorell. After the Astralis mission, his military career had continued its meteoric rise until the Battle of Proxima Centauri. The catastrophic loss of his squadron had broken something inside him. Now he lived in self-imposed exile on Meridian, a quiet agricultural colony on the edge of settled space. The small prefab cabin he called home sat nestled against ancient forest at the valley's edge. He'd chosen it for the silence, for the distance from both human and alien politics. His days followed a simple rhythm, tending his small garden, trading occasional carpentry work with the colonists, and fighting the nightmares that still woke him. Today the air felt different. Something electric in the atmosphere made the hairs on his neck stand up. You always did prefer difficult terrain, a musical voice said from behind him. Elian spun, his hand instinctively reaching for a weapon he no longer carried. 7 years hadn't dulled his reflexes. Standing at the edge of his property was an Australian woman, tall and regal. Her blue skin seemed to shimmer in the afternoon light, the elaborate silver markings along her temples and cheekbones identifying her royal lineage. But it was her eyes, concentric rings of silver, violet, and deep blue, that sent recognition crashing through him. Varial, he breathed. She moved toward him with fluid grace that reminded him of a predator. No longer the impetuous young princess, she carried herself with the poise of her people, yet retained that spark of defiance he remembered. The stars have aligned, Captain Dorell, she said, stopping a few paces from him. Or should I say, Farmer Dorell now. Elian's mind raced. How did you find me? With considerable effort, she replied. Your government guards your location zealously. It took 3 diplomatic missions and calling in favors from 2 ambassadors before I obtained clearance to travel here. He noticed then what she wore, not the ceremonial robes of Australian royalty, but the practical, fitted attire of their warrior caste, with emblems of diplomatic rank. A ceremonial blade hung at her hip. You've risen in your people's hierarchy, he observed. I am now Envoy Defender Varial, second heir to the high seat of Astralis. Her head tilted slightly. And you've fallen from yours. The bluntness was pure Varial. Elian couldn't help but smile despite himself. Not fallen. Stepped away. A semantic distinction without difference. She walked past him to survey his small cabin. You live simply for a decorated war hero. Why are you here, Varial? Elian asked, though part of him already knew. She turned to face him fully. You told me to find you when the stars aligned again. When I had seen more of the universe, her gaze held his without wavering. I have completed my ascension. I have served in 3 interstellar campaigns against the Tauran expansion. I have negotiated peace treaties and trade agreements with 17 worlds. Impressive credentials, Elian said, finding himself drawn to the intensity radiating from her. And in all that time, she continued, moving closer, in all those experiences, I never found another soul that resonated with mine as yours does. Elian felt his chest tighten. Varial, I was a soldier following orders on a diplomatic mission. Whatever connection you felt was mutual, she interrupted. You feel it even now, despite your denial. Before he could respond, his communication panel chimed with urgency. Frowning, Elian moved to answer it. The colony's security chief appeared, her expression tense. "Dorel, we've got a situation." Unidentified ship just entered orbit, not responding to hails. Elian's military mind snapped back to attention. Configuration: unknown, but energy signatures suggest heavy weapons. "I know you're retired, but I'll be there in 20 minutes. He cut the transmission and turned to find Variel already checking her own communication device. "My security team reports the same," she said grimly. "The vessel matches Tauran stealth technology, but with modifications." "Your security team?" Elian asked sharply. "My diplomatic vessel is docked at your colony spaceport," she explained. "Standard protocol includes a tactical unit." Understanding dawned on Elian. "They followed you here." "Unlikely. My ship employs the most advanced cloaking technology in the Alliance." Her eyes narrowed. "But someone knew I would come for you." The implication hung between them as they moved with synchronized purpose. Elian retrieving the pulse rifle he'd kept despite his retirement, Variel checking her blade and the compact energy weapon at her belt. "Just like old times," she said with a predatory smile that transformed her face. As they raced toward the colony center, Elian realized with startling clarity that the peace he'd sought on Meridian had always been temporary. Perhaps he'd been waiting all this time, not just for trouble to find him again, but for her. The stars had indeed aligned, but not for the reunion Variel had envisioned. As the first explosions lit the horizon, Elian knew their past had returned to haunt them both. The colony's defense center buzzed with frantic activity as Elian and Variel entered. Screens displayed the orbital position of the unidentified vessel and the location of the first attacks. Targeted strikes against the colony's communications array and power generation facilities. "Precision hits," Elian muttered. "They know exactly what they're doing." The security chief, a weathered woman named Jaya, looked relieved to see him. 3 shuttles have breached atmosphere. 20+ hostiles on the ground." "Any demands?" Elian asked. "None," Jaya replied. "Just systematic destruction." Variel stepped forward, her posture commanding instant attention. "Show me the vessel configuration again." When the image appeared on screen, she pointed to specific features. "These modifications aren't Tauran. They're Krell mercenary adaptations." "Krell?" Jaya looked confused. "They haven't been active in this sector for years." "Because they've been busy elsewhere," Variel said grimly. "Specifically, hunting Australian diplomatic missions and former Earth Alliance officers connected to the Australis Accord." Elian's blood ran cold. "Vosh." Variel's eyes met his. "You remember. General Taran Vosh," Elian explained to the others. "Tauran military commander who opposed the Earth-Australian Alliance. His faction lost power when the accord was signed. He swore vengeance against those responsible," Variel added. "He disappeared 3 years ago after a failed coup attempt." Elian turned to her. "You knew he might come for me. That's why you're really here." Anger flashed in her eyes. "I came because I gave my word. Protection was secondary." The hurt in her voice was unmistakable, and Elian regretted his accusation immediately. Before he could respond, the center's alarms blared. The mercenaries had breached the colony's perimeter. What followed was a brutal 4 hours of tactical combat. Elian fell back into his military role with disturbing ease, coordinating the colony's limited security forces. Variel and her team demonstrated why Australian warrior diplomats were feared throughout the galaxy: precise, almost telepathic coordination and devastating effectiveness. During a momentary lull, they found themselves pinned down behind a damaged agricultural processor. Elian's shoulder bled from a glancing hit. "Hold still," Variel commanded, applying a healing compress from her field kit. Her touch was gentle despite her fierce expression. "You've improved your combat technique," Elian said, wincing as the medicine sealed his wound. "I had an excellent first teacher," she replied, eyes focused on her work. "Though I've had many since." "Variel," he began, What I said earlier was honest, she interrupted. You questioned my motives. A reasonable tactical assessment. Her fingers lingered on his healed shoulder, but inaccurate. Their eyes locked, and for a moment, the battle around them seemed to recede. I came for you, she said quietly. The threat to your life is real, but secondary to my purpose. And what is your purpose? Elian asked, his voice rough. To fulfill what was promised. To see if what I felt was true. Her gaze was unwavering. To discover if what you felt was also true. A nearby explosion forced them back to reality. This isn't the time, Elian said, checking his weapon. For humans, it never is, she replied with surprising bitterness. Your people postpone truth until convenient moments that never arrive. They rejoined the fight, pushing the mercenaries back toward their landing craft. In the chaos, Elian witnessed Variel's transformation from diplomat to warrior, beautiful and terrible. She fought with the fluid precision of her people, but with an emotional intensity that was uniquely hers. When the last mercenary craft retreated, leaving their dead behind, the orbital vessel disappeared into jump space, a temporary victory at best. That night, as the colony assessed damages and tended wounded, Elian found Variel alone at the edge of the settlement, staring at the stars. They'll be back, she said without turning. Vosh doesn't retreat, he regroups. Elian stood beside her. Why did you really track me down after all these years, Variel? The truth. She turned to him, moonlight illuminating her features. Among my people, when we recognize a soul bond, it becomes part of us. It cannot be severed or ignored without diminishing who we are. And you believe we have this bond. I know it, she said simply. Since the moment you took that blade meant for me. Our essences connected. Elian sighed. Humans don't experience connections that way. Don't they? Her head tilted. When you dream of Proxima Centauri, of your lost squadron, do you not also dream of crystal forests and 3 rising moons? Elian stiffened. How could you know that? Because I dream of your battles too, she whispered. Your pain echoes in me across the stars. That is what a soul bond means, Elian. Connection that had haunted him for 7 years. Rest, he finally said. Tomorrow we plan our next move. If Vosh wants war, we'll give him one. As he turned to leave, her voice stopped him. I didn't come to claim you, Elian. I came to give you a choice. He looked back at her. This alien woman who had carried his memory across years and light years, and felt something long dormant stir within him. I made my choice when I stepped between you. And that blade, he admitted quietly. I just didn't understand what it meant. In the darkness, her eyes glowed with a hope that made his heart ache with possibilities he had never allowed himself to consider. The colony transformed over the next 3 days. Under Elian's direction, defensive positions strengthened. Variel's diplomatic vessel, sleek and powerful despite its modest size, provided advanced shielding technology and weapons. But most surprising was the change in the colonists themselves, farmers and researchers who revealed military backgrounds and hidden skills. Earth sent its veterans here for a reason, Elian explained as he and Variel surveyed the newly fortified perimeter. Meridian was designed as a fallback position if the core worlds ever fell. Your government never shared this with Astralis, Variel noted, not accusingly but with interest. Some secrets stay secret even between allies. He glanced at her. Speaking of secrets, you never mentioned your position in the succession. Variel's expression remained neutral. Second heir is largely ceremonial. My elder sibling Tarvik will take the high seat. Unless I prove myself of greater value to our people through diplomatic achievement. Her eyes met his, or through securing a powerful alliance. The implication hung between them. Elian felt a tightness in his chest. Is that what I am? A political alliance? No, she said firmly. That would be the consequence, not the purpose. Her hand moved toward his but stopped short of touching. I told you before. I came for you, Elian. The rest is context. Their planning session that evening brought them no closer to understanding Vosh's next move. Intelligence from Varial's contacts indicated his forces were gathering, but where and when they would strike remained unknown. Late that night, Elian found himself unable to sleep, haunted by memories both old and new. He walked to the colony's small lake, surprised to find Varial already there, performing what appeared to be a ritualistic series of movements, part combat form, part meditation. She acknowledged his presence without breaking her rhythm. Alignment practice, she explained. It helped center the soul before battle. Elian watched, mesmerized by her fluid grace. When she finished, she approached where he sat on a fallen log. "Your nightmares are worse tonight," she said. He didn't bother asking how she knew. "I lead these people into battle tomorrow. Some won't return. The burden of command." She settled beside him. "It never leaves you, does it? Even after you surrendered your rank. Some responsibilities can't be set aside," he admitted. Like promises made to young princesses. There was a hint of her old teasing spirit in her voice. Despite himself, Elian smiled. "That was different." "Was it?" She turned to face him fully. "You told me to find you when I had seen more of the universe. I have seen it, Elian. Wonders and horrors alike." "And?" he prompted softly. "And I find that the universe is vast beyond comprehension, filled with countless souls." Her hand finally bridged the gap between them, fingers brushing his. "Yet somehow yours calls to mine across impossible distances." The touch sent electricity through him, familiar yet new. "Varial, even if I felt the same. Our worlds, our lives are completely different." "Are they?" she challenged. "You fight for what matters. So do I. You carry the weight of those you couldn't save. So do I." Her fingers intertwined with his. "You feel this connection between us, as do I." When her lips met his, the sensation was like nothing he'd experienced, a resonance that seemed to vibrate through his very being. Her skin, cooler than human temperature, sent shivers along his nerve endings. The alienness of her was matched only by the profound familiarity of her essence. They drew apart, both breathing unsteadily. "Among my people," she whispered, "this connection is sacred, rare even in a lifetime." Elian traced the silver markings along her temple. "And if we pursue it, then we face the consequences together," she said simply, "whatever they may be." The proximity alarm shattered the moment. Vosh's armada had arrived, 3 warships dropping out of jump space directly above Meridian. What followed was 18 hours of brutal combat. Vosh's forces hammered the colony with orbital strikes before landing ground troops. The colonists' preparations proved effective, but the mercenaries' numbers were overwhelming. Fighting side by side, Elian and Varial moved like extensions of each other. His tactical mind complemented her intuitive combat style. When his position was overrun, she appeared as if summoned. When she was pinned down by enemy fire, his covering shots cleared her escape. The tide turned when Varial's security chief managed to hack the mercenaries' communication network. They discovered Vosh himself was leading the assault from the command ship. "We end this at the source," Elian decided. The plan was audacious to the point of madness. Using Varial's diplomatic vessel, they would breach the command ship's hangar bay during a chaotic moment in the battle. A small strike team would fight their way to the bridge. As they prepared for the assault, Elian pulled Varial aside. "If this goes wrong," she placed her fingers against his lips. "It won't. If it does," he insisted, "know that I understand now. What you felt all those years ago, I felt it too. I just wasn't ready to accept what it meant." Her eyes brightened with emotion. "Then let's survive, so you can show me exactly what it means." The assault was brutal and costly. 3 of their team fell before they reached the bridge. When the doors finally opened, General Vosh awaited them. An imposing Tauren with battle-scarred features and cold, calculating eyes. "The princess and the captain," he sneered. "How fitting you should die together for the alliance you helped forge." What Vosh hadn't counted on was their connection. fighting as one. Anticipating each other's moves without words, they overwhelmed his guards. When Vosh himself engaged, his legendary combat skills nearly prevailed, until he made the fatal mistake of focusing on Elian as the primary threat, giving Variel the opening she needed. As Vosh fell, his final words were a curse against the union of their worlds. But the damage was done. The mercenary fleet, learning of their leader's death, retreated in disarray. That night, as Meridian began its recovery, Elian and Variel finally found sanctuary in his small cabin. Words gave way to touch, human and Australian physiology, discovering surprising harmonies. Their connection transcended the physical. Moments when thoughts seemed shared, sensations echoed between them, confirming what Variel had always known and what Elian had finally accepted. In the quiet aftermath, as she lay curled against him, her cool skin a balm against his warmth, Elian finally asked the question he'd been avoiding. What happens now? 3 months after Vosh's defeat, Elian stood on the observation deck of the Australian diplomatic vessel Starlight Covenant, watching Earth recede in the distance. His formal uniform, neither fully human military nor Australian diplomatic, but something uniquely between, still felt strange against his skin. Having second thoughts, Variel asked, joining him at the viewport. She wore the formal robes of her position as envoy defender, the silver circlet of her royal house glinting against her blue skin. About leaving Earth? No. He turned to her. About facing your high council as your chosen consort? Absolutely. Her laugh filled the space between them. They've had months to adjust to the idea. Besides, the alliance benefits both our worlds. Is that how you presented it to them? A strategic alliance? Her expression softened as she stepped closer. I presented the truth, that the sole bond between us strengthens both our peoples, that your experience and insight complement my position. The past 3 months had been a whirlwind of diplomacy and cultural exchange. After the Battle of Meridian, as it was now called, both governments had recognized the significance of what they had accomplished. The defeat of Vosh had eliminated the greatest threat to Earth-Astralis relations and created an opportunity for stronger ties. What neither government had anticipated was the personal union that would cement those ties. The High Minister still opposes us, Elian reminded her. My father, Variel corrected with a smile, is protective, but he remembers how you saved my life 7 years ago, and again at Meridian. As I recall, you saved mine more recently. Their journey to this moment had not been smooth. Earth's military command had initially viewed Elian's relationship with an alien royal with suspicion. Astralis's noble houses had questioned the wisdom of their second heir choosing the human consort. Both had eventually recognized the diplomatic advantages, if not the personal truth behind them. 3 days until we reach Astralis, Variel said, leaning into him. Are you prepared for the bonding ceremony? Elian's hand found hers, their fingers intertwining in what had become their habitual gesture of connection. I've been studying the rituals, though I'm still not convinced I can pronounce the ancestral vows correctly. Your accent is improving, she assured him. Besides, it's the intent that matters in a soul bond, not perfect pronunciation. A communication alert interrupted them. Admiral Kenta's face appeared on the nearby screen. Elian's former commanding officer and now Earth's representative to the Interstellar Alliance. Captain Dorell, the Admiral began formally, then relaxed slightly. Elian, we've received intelligence you should be aware of. Remnants of Vosh's faction are regrouping in the Outer Rim territories. Elian felt Variel stiffen beside him. Confirmed reports. Enough to warrant concern, Kenta replied. The Alliance Council is requesting your assessment, given your experience with Vosh's tactics. Our assessment, Elian corrected, glancing at Variel. We'll review the intelligence and provide recommendations before we reach Astralis. After the Admiral signed off, Variel's expression turned thoughtful. It appears our enemies believe our story isn't finished. Our enemies never understood what makes us strong. Elian replied, drawing her closer. They see our differences as weakness, when in fact, they're our greatest strength. She completed his thought. Their journey had come full circle in many ways. The young princess who had once looked up to a human captain with innocent affection had become a powerful woman who stood as his equal. The broken soldier who had retreated from life had found purpose again in an unexpected connection that transcended species and culture. That evening, as they worked together analyzing intelligence reports, Elian was struck by how seamlessly they complemented each other. His strategic thinking balanced her intuitive insights. Her diplomatic experience tempered his military instincts. "You're staring," Variel noted without looking up from her work. "Remembering," he corrected. "The first time you asked me to teach you combat forms, you were so determined." She smiled at the memory. "I was trying to impress you." "You did," he admitted, "though not in the way you intended." Later, in the privacy of their quarters, as the ship's artificial night cycle dimmed the lights, they spoke of the future that awaited them, the challenges they would face as representatives of a new kind of alliance, the personal journey they had begun. "Among my people," Variel said as they lay together, her fingers tracing patterns on his chest, "there is a belief that soul bonds transcend lifetimes, that some connections are written in the stars themselves." "Is that why you never doubted?" Elian asked. "Even when I sent you away." "You didn't send me away," she corrected. "You told me to come back when the stars aligned. When I was ready." Her eyes, those remarkable concentric rings of color, held his. "And I did." "You certainly did," he agreed, pulling her closer. "Though I'm not sure either of us was prepared for what would follow." "The best journeys are the unexpected ones," she whispered against his skin. As their ship carried them toward Astralis and whatever future awaited, Elian reflected on the strange path that had brought him here. From reluctant protector to willing partner. From isolated exile to diplomatic envoy. From a man running from his past to one embracing an unexpected future. "When we arrive," Variel said, interrupting his thoughts, "there will be ceremonies, politics, expectations." "I know," he replied. "Your people have traditions older than my entire civilization." "Yes," she agreed. "But amidst all that, remember one thing." Her hand found his in their familiar gesture. "This, what exists between us, isn't about duty or alliance or politics. It never was. It was always about a promise," Elian finished. "One I made before I understood its meaning." "And now?" she asked, a rare vulnerability in her voice. "Now I understand that some promises transcend worlds," he said. "Some connections defy explanation." As Astralis grew larger in their viewport, its crystalline continents beginning to shimmer into view, they stood together, two beings from different worlds who had found in each other something neither had expected, not just a connection that bridged their differences, but one that celebrated them. The stars had aligned, just as promised, and in that alignment, they had discovered a constellation entirely their own.